I've just completed a cruise on what is in fact the world's newest and most expensive cruise ship. While I enjoyed my overall experience and had expected to further ascend my love and admiration for this cruise line, in some ways I'm a little disappointed. In this video, I will give you a complete and honest breakdown of my time on board this cruise ship from top to bottom, from the pricing to the food to the overall experience, because not only was this my second time ever sailing with this particular line, not only is this the world's newest and most expensive cruise ship, this line as a whole has been given awards of all kinds, including being the only cruise line to this day to be given an award and recommended by Forbes themselves, giving this cruise line the title of Resort at Sea. The cruise line I be sailing with is known as Celebrity Cruises, and it is considered a premium line, meaning it is a step above Carnival Cruise Line, Norwegian Cruise Line, and even Royal Caribbean, even if it does belong with the Royal Caribbean group. However, it's not in the category with Cunard, Ritz-Carlton, but more so with Princess Cruises and Virgin Voyages. The ship that I'll be sailing on would be the brand new Celebrity Ascent. Initially launched in November of 2023, it is the fourth ship in the Edge class series, costing a whopping $1.8 billion to build. It has 16 decks, holds just under 4,000 passengers at full capacity, over 1,600 staterooms, 83% of which are balconies, 32 food and drink venues, which includes 15 restaurants, 12 bars and lounges, 4 main dining rooms, and 4 cafes. It also has 6 hot tubs on board, 3 pools, 1 indoor, 2 outdoor, and a revolutionary device known as the Magic Carpet, which is essentially a bar and lounge elevator that operates between decks 2 and 16 periodically throughout the day. The cost of my cabin and cruise would come out to $2,400 when you include the port fees and taxes for a 7-day inaugural Eastern Caribbean cruise in a deluxe interior cabin. I would also receive $150 of onboard credit. I would also pay for the premium Wi-Fi at $33 a day or $230 per person for the entire cruise. All in all, for the pricing, I gotta admit, it was not bad, especially considering this is a quote-unquote inaugural sailing. I say that because, well, there were some complications as far as whether this was actually the first cruise ever for this particular cruise line, but we'll go over it later on in the video. On embarkation day, or the first day of my cruise, I would arrive via Uber to Port Everglades. My ship would be docked at Terminal 25. It was probably one of the smoothest processes I had ever been through when it comes to boarding a ship. All aboard would be 3 p.m. I would arrive an hour or so early at approximately 12:30. However, they didn't seem to mind. They let me right on board, even if I did arrive early. And, well, after a couple security checks and scans of my passport, I was allowed to board the Celebrity Ascent, no problem. Once on board, you can immediately see the beauty and elegance of the brand new Celebrity Ascent. There's artwork all over the place, and, well, it's just a somewhat premium to potentially in some areas fancy ship to be on. The first thing I did was go check out my deluxe interior cabin, because I do have to admit, for me personally, when it comes to interiors, I do believe that it is the best economic option if you are sailing on a budget, or if you want to use the money that you've saved for your vacation somewhere else. Completely understandable. However, for me personally, it does tend to throw off my sleep schedule, being that there is no sunlight coming into the room. However, I was surprised to see that the room was a lot larger than I had expected. There was a couch in the room, and to a degree there was some technological advances, as you could operate the lighting, the air conditioning, all via the Celebrity Cruises app, which I thought was pretty cool. I would then explore the ship, and the first thing that I would notice, well, a couple things in fact, is that the ship seemed just a little light for an inaugural sailing. There are a couple reasons for this, as the ship holds just under 4,000 passengers. There seemed to be, well, I would then figure out that there were about 2,000 passengers on board, meaning the inaugural sailing, the first sailing for the Celebrity Ascent, will be operating at half capacity. This is due to one, well, technically 2 factors. Celebrity Cruises decided to add more cruises, a quote-unquote booze cruise, if you will, is what we call them, a 4-day and a 3-day before the maiden voyage, or this particular cruise, was supposed to take place. This would, of course, involve all of the media people, all of the big wigs, the suits, the management team, the people that work within the industry, and for Celebrity Cruises, also influencers, and all of those people would be on those prior sailings leading up to the inaugural, causing the only people to really be on board are the ones that booked maybe years out. I talked to some people on board. They booked this particular sailing 2 years out, and they were a little disappointed. They felt alienated because they wanted to be the first people on board. And, well, I do believe to a certain degree, I understand from a business perspective, it was somewhat in bad taste, because because it would have, unfortunately, a ripple effect on the entire cruise. What I mean by this, and I'm going to break all this down in categories, was that the crew seemed kind of bogged down because they were kind of thrown into the fire with these two sailings that weren't exactly planned. When it came to the food on board, it was great. However, you had to expect the service to be a little slow, as I do have friends that are waiters and cooks on board that I used to work with for Norwegian. I had known prior to even working on cruise ships. They said that everybody was essentially worn down because these cruises that they had before this one was somewhat of a paid cruise for everybody, meaning everybody got free specialty dining options, everybody got free drinks, and that obviously is going to create a giant workload for all of the crew leading up to the inaugural sailing. Diving a little bit more into the food, because I know all of you want to know about the food, of course, I did have the opportunity to go to two main dining options on board, which was Fine Cut, the steakhouse, absolutely delicious food. The steak definitely was top tier. It cost about $65–70 to wine and dine myself over there. I also went to the Raw and Five during the lunch hours. The food there was great. It was decent, I want to say, not great. It was good, not great over there. But however, I do love my seafood. I had a great time over there. They got sushi and seafood. It cost about 40 to 45 bucks. But I will say as a whole, it was very difficult to get into any of the specialty dining options on this particular sailing because, one, you have to consider this is a premium line, meaning there is the potential for more passengers to have disposable income, causing them to kind of skip out on the buffet, as the buffet was only busy really during the breakfast hours between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. However, unless there was like a seafood night, they were there, but people were pretty much going to the main dining options and the specialty dining options, and they booked all of them early. So even if the ship was sailing at half capacity, most of the reservations for the specialty dining options were completely booked, and it was impossible to get a seat unless you stayed on board during the ports of call and went during the lunch hours. The entertainment as a whole was great as usual. I've always argued that between Royal Caribbean Group, as far as like Royal Caribbean Cruise Line and Celebrity Cruises, they have without a doubt some of the best entertainment that you will ever see out here on the ocean on any particular cruise ship. I would argue that the entertainment as a whole was better in my opinion on the Beyond, but do take into consideration this is an inaugural sailing, so these are the first time these shows are being seen, and there are a lot of kinks that still got to get worked out. But I did like the diversity of the shows here. There was a man, really cool guy from the UK named Bones. He's a break dancer, but he also performs magic. We became friends, and his show was absolutely amazing, as well as all the shows over in Eden. I saw almost all the shows on board. Top-notch entertainment here on board the Celebrity Ascent. The activities were okay on board. There was a lot going on, but at the same time, nothing, especially throughout the day. Sometimes you'd catch some cool thing like volleyball taking place with the captains and the officers, but most of the cool stuff that people wanted to go to was at night. And when that happened, unfortunately, it was kind of like a clash. On most cruise lines, they space everything out. They have multiple showings where you can see a little bit of everything, or at the very least, watch a show, then have a brisk walk over to the next venue to see the other show. You couldn't really do that here on this particular ship, as let's say you would see like the adult only comedy and as well as a show over in Eden taking place at essentially the same time, meaning you had to choose one or the other. I wish they had done that a little bit better as far as the organization. By the way, I do completely understand that it is extremely important to have multiple attractive and interesting events going on at once on the cruise ship. That way you avoid everybody in the ship essentially crowding to one venue. However, when it came to the adult only comedy and the shows over in Eden, for example, they only had one showing of that specific show throughout the entire cruise. And since it was at the same time, you had to choose which one you wanted to go see. That part of it was extremely disappointing. We also, of course, have to talk about the demographic, as I was a little shocked. I've said previously when I made a video about celebrity cruises was that I thought they were poised and kind of turning to the idea of bringing in a wider demographic age-wise, as I believe in this digital world, you have a lot of younger people that have disposable income and are potentially interested in sailing with a premium line. On this sailing, I would say I was the youngest person on board, or at least one of the very, very few. There were obviously no kids around. I saw like maybe one or two running around, but that was it. Most of the people on board were in their 40s up to 50s, and well, I don't think that was a problem, don't get me wrong. However, I was surprised, and I do believe that the primary reason for that being was because they had the two sailings that was a 4-night and a 3-night prior to the actual inaugural sailing. Most of you know I do enjoy a good active nightlife. I do believe that for me personally, considering my age, it does give me the overall best well-rounded experience on a cruise ship, unless I'm going to a place like Antarctica or Alaska. While I do of course have to take into consideration that Celebrity Cruises is a premium line, meaning that potentially due to the price, you are typically going to see an older demographic on board. My experience on board the sister ship of the Ascent, the Celebrity Beyond, was much different. I even said back in April of 2023 when I was doing my review of the Celebrity Beyond that this would happen. I may go another time on another celebrity ship and have a whole different perspective and experience, just like all of you fine folk. The nightclubs, bars, and venues during the evening hours were pretty much empty with the exception of course, the casino. There was one night where we had a rooftop party where surprisingly a lot of people showed up. That event was fun, but for the most part, it was an empty ship during the evening hours. Between the crew and entertainers essentially being bogged down from performing so much for the two sailings that were kind of unexpected, I do believe this cruise as a whole was just a little too slow for me. And I do believe that it was a little alienating for celebrity cruises to have two short sailings before the inaugural. And well, it just, like I said, caused somewhat of a snowball effect to the point to where it wasn't the spectacle that you would typically see on an inaugural sailing. We got a cool booklet and a hat. However, the vibe on board didn't scream brand new cruise ship. It screamed, we are tired and we want a little break before we start back up again. Nevertheless, this is still one of the most beautiful ships I have ever seen. Will I sail with Celebrity again? Of course I will. It will be a little while, and before I do, I'll probably sail with other lines like Virgin, which I do as far as the premium category consider Virgin over Celebrity Cruises. Yes, it is because there is a little bit more to do. I do believe they have just the best bang for buck, meaning that when you book the cruise with Virgin, everything is included as far as, well, the restaurants on board, there are places to relax, there are places to party, and I feel like Celebrity, because I heard they have a newish CEO, they're trying to kind of figure out what is going to work and what direction they're going to take moving into the future. So I'll wait and see what happens. Anywho, that's what I got for this review. Please don't get mad for the people that are loyal with Celebrity Cruises. I didn't say they were a bad line, it's just this particular experience was very different from when I was on the Celebrity Beyond. I do also understand that when you go on a maiden voyage or an inaugural sailing or first cruise for a particular cruise ship, you are a guinea pig, meaning things are getting tested out, some things may not be ready, some things may not work properly, and there's a system that needs to be put in place. I completely 100% understand that. However, let me know your thoughts on this review in the comment section below. If you are a Celebrity loyalist, let me know your thoughts. I'd greatly appreciate it. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already, and know as usual, I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you later. Take it easy.